All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our season kickoff of the Alaska Pediatric Partnership Meetings. These are a wonderful opportunity for us to travel around the state and highlight all the wonderful work that's going on in our communities that are offering services to children, families, and youth all across our state. We know as Alaskans, we have to get creative sometimes, right? And seeing here in Sitka, we're doing that right now with no internet connectivity. Thank you for all that you do to continue serving all your wonderful patients and all the work that you all do, even when we have to go back to 1990. Right? So today we are just here to hear about the great stuff that you're doing. We've got a couple wonderful presentations from some local providers about some of the wonderful work that's going on. My name is Ryan Honman-Keha. I am the partnerships lead at the Alaska Pediatric Partnership, and so I've been able to connect with quite a few of you lately about these meetings. We've gotten to go into some of your offices and share about our Help Me Grow Alaska program. On your tables, you'll see some of our Help Me Grow materials. There's folders that talk a little bit about the program, and then also some developmental milestone books that you can take with you. These are all free materials for not only for you to take today, but also to order from our website. So if you are interested in ordering more of these books, crayons, pamphlets, whatever, you can see my friend Donna here, and she will write down your information and go ahead and put that in our system since you can't use the QR codes currently. So we'll get you connected to ordering the materials that you might need for your clinics. So usually we just kick off and go around the room and introduce ourselves and what agency we work for. So as your neighbor introduces, maybe don't take a bite of food. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Donna here.
Hello, I'm Donna Reisinger. I'm the Communications and Training Coordinator with Alaska Pediatric Partnership, A2P2. I would be the one, like Rhiannon was saying, for you to touch base with about ordering materials or any training or introduction needs into Help Me Grow Alaska.
I'm Jen McNichol, the pediatrician over at Search.
I'm Lauren Wild. I'm a faculty member over at the University of Alaska Southeast, but I'm just here as a parent and part of the Early Childhood Coalition here in Sitka.
My name is Annette Evans, and I'm the lead preschool teacher at the new therapeutic preschool at Sitka Counseling. I'm also on the Health Needs and Human Services Commission, and we've been charged with presenting some child care solutions to the assembly, which we hope to do by January.
Oh, fantastic.
Chris Washko, Clinical Director at Sitka.
I'm Lisa Hodges with Center for Community Early Learning Program.
I'm Marin Donovan. I'm the Director of Rehab Services at Search.
I'm Celeste Dinko, Occupational Therapist.
I'm Robin Mohammed, I'm a Family Support Specialist with Help Me Grow Alaska.
Hi, I'm Carmen Wenger. I'm the Director of Programs for the Alaska Pediatric Partnership.
Deal Trujillo, I am here today. Representing something statewide, the Alaska Association for Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health.
My name is Tori Hay, and I'm an occupational therapist at Mountainside Rehab at Search.
And my name is Jamie Lee Seavey, and I'm also an occupational therapist at Mountainside Rehab at Search.
Christy Winter with Center for Community Services Coordinator.
Teresa Porter, L&D nurse at Search.
Kimberly Kapp, physician internal medicine and pediatrics at Search.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the introductions. If you haven't gotten a chance to, there's also a sign-in sheet on the back. We just like to capture who's here today. Send you all thank yous for being here. So before you leave, please make sure you sign in. So to do our welcome today and just introduce our agenda, I'm going to introduce Carmen Wenger, our Director of Programs and the Acting Executive Director at A2P2. Yeah. Actually, can you come up here so the computer can record? Normally we launch this statewide, but we are recording it, so I'm going to make people feel a little uncomfortable with being in front of everybody today.
We'll normalize it. So Rhiannon did a great job of welcoming everybody. I don't feel like I need to talk that much, but These are meetings that we have statewide. We have partnership meetings September to May. So this is the kickoff of our fiscal year 25 partnership year. So we're really grateful to be here in your community and to have had such engaging meetings already so far in our time here, and to be here and have you share, like Rhiannon said. Normally it's a time both for communities to network and come together and kind of talk in the early part of the meeting, and to share out with the rest of the state all the awesome things that are going on in the community. We're going to tweak that a little bit, and like she said, the computer's recording some of it. We're going to find different ways to make sure the great work happening here in Sitka is still highlighted with some of our partners. It's been really awesome to see how the online attendance has changed over time and really grown and increased. There's a lot of interest in learning from communities across the state, from other communities, and that's something we try to foster at A2P2, is really the peer-based learning and connecting communities directly with other communities where other people don't have to get in the way. And so I encourage you to, if you find it interesting, if you connect with people you haven't seen in a while here today, you're welcome to join other meetings in the future. They're the first Friday of every month, September to May, and it's a chance to hear what's going on in other places. And it's nice to either kind of feel less alone, that there are other people doing creative, great things for kids around the state, and it's a good chance to either hear somebody else who's doing something similar where you can connect, or get good ideas that are things you might want to do here. So you're always more than welcome. You're also welcome to reach out to any of our staff. There's 4 of us here today. We can meet and talk about either something else you'd like to celebrate that you aren't hearing about, or a challenge you're having that you'd like to help elevate to the staff, to the state level, work on some of our advocacy, or maybe find a peer somewhere else in the state that you'd like to talk about something. That's what we're here for. So today I want to turn it over to our awesome presenters, but one of the things that relates to our first presenter is we do have a fairly robust data and policy set of work at A2P2, and one of the things we're very excited about 2 years of work has gone into the creation of an infant and early childhood mental health needs assessment that is on the cusp of public release. So we have started releasing it at the end of last week, and it will be publicly available as soon as I have internet again. So it's in the process of being released, and I'm excited to share. It's come together through a collaborative work with people across the state, and Gail is one of those people. So she is already implementing some of the recommendations in that report, and we're excited to kind of get that out, because there's a lot of both significant needs around the state, but also work being done to address some of those gaps. And so if that's something you're interested in, or it's work you either have a connection to or want to know more about, reach out to me and I'll make sure you're on our distribution list. And I'll hand it over to Gail so we can learn about some work that's already being done to implement, I think, 2 of our recommendations in our needs assessment.
So, okay, so I just have to do something? Click?
You can just hit
that?
Yeah.
I can do that. What? There. Okay. It's good to see so many familiar faces. I think I know just about everybody in the room. I was with the early learning program for 20 years here in Sitka, and I retired last September, almost a year. Everything from my office is still sitting in my living room, so got to try and find a place for it. Getting there slowly. And now Lisa is taking over and doing a tremendous job. And so since my retirement, I've been able to focus on a couple other pet projects. And one of them is being the chairperson for the Alaska Association for Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health. It's a statewide organization. Chris Washko is on our board. Just to give you a little bit of information about us, is that we are a professional organization. Anyone can belong to it. We focus on supporting the social-emotional development, sometimes referred to as infant mental health, infant and early childhood mental health of young children, birth to 5, even prenatal. We're a nonprofit organization run by a volunteer board who work really hard. We have about 150 members, although that fluctuates from time to time. And I'd like to say we're an all-volunteer board, mostly, which I think says a lot for a lot of committed people in the state. But we do have some money for some contractors for things like administrative support. So our overall mission, as I was saying, is to promote the social, emotional development and well-being of children birth to 5 years of age and their caregivers in Alaska by strengthening and supporting those who touch their lives. Infant and early childhood mental health is kind of a hard concept for people to get their heads around. Like, how can babies have mental health issues? They do. And the sooner we can support them and their caregivers, the better their trajectory in life. It's just really important to be able to identify little ones and their caregivers. They come as a pair, to be able to work with them together and to help give them a good lease on life. So that's what we focus on. We have 3 main activities that we do. We don't provide direct services. None of us go out and work with families directly that are on the border. People in the association do that work. Our main focus is to educate people working in this field. We do training webinars every month by well-known people throughout the whole U.S. and internationally. And if you're a member, you get a reduced rate, blah, blah, blah. So we really try to increase the knowledge and skills of those who are working with this population. We spend a lot of time advocating federally and sometimes statewide on behalf of young children, and we can't do this work alone. We definitely need to collaborate, and this is kind of an example of that. As far as the education goes, we do hold the license to endorse people in the field of infant and early childhood mental health. We have a set of competencies that were developed by the Michigan Association years ago, and you can apply for endorsement if you're working in the field, and then there's many things that you have to do to show that you've met these competencies, and you can be endorsed in working with the 0 to 3 population or 3 to 5. And what does that mean? It means to your peers, you have the skills and knowledge to work with this population, that you know what you're doing. It's a very, very special population, and the work that you do is very unique. It isn't taking what we know about 6 and 7-year-olds and pushing it down. It just doesn't work for little kids. It's very different. So, to that end, and as Carmen was saying, the association was just provided an 18-month grant from the Preschool Development Fund. It's a federal grant, and it went to DEED, Department of Education, and I think Public Health. And the goal of it is to increase the capacity of infant and early childhood mental health consultants in Alaska. Consultants are those who go into child care programs. They're different than clinicians, although you can be a clinician, do this work. But it's to really focus on supporting children in the early childhood programs. Alaska used to boast the highest expulsion rate of preschoolers in Alaska. Nothing to boast about, but we were the highest in the U.S. that were kicking kids out of childcare and daycare. And it was because of challenging behaviors that were really hard for people to understand and to work with. So there is a role for those in the field, and they're called infant and early childhood mental health consultants, going in and supporting not only the children, but so we work at the child focus level to see what might be triggering that child's behavior, what's underneath the behavior, and really trying to come up with some solutions. Some people in the field are trained to also work with the child and the family. Not all consultants can do that kind of work. We also work at the classroom focus level, just trying to see, is there anything in the daily schedule, in the environment, anything that might be contributing to what might be going on for what's going on with some of the children. We all bring our biases, working with child care workers around their biases around children and whatnot and their practices. And we also work at the program-focused level. The report that Carmen was talking about, there's less than 10 consultants in Alaska for all the programs. I cover 6 of the programs in Southeast Alaska, just providing mental health consultations. So we definitely need more consultants, and that's the crux of this project. And the reason we do need consultants, as I was saying, it's really hard to find statistics on what's going on with kids in Alaska. How many kids are receiving mental health services between the ages of birth to 5? We might be able to find out who's receiving them, but we're not able to find out who needs to receive them, those kids that aren't showing up. So there was a study done by a group called Radiant in, I think it was in 2019, 15% of those surveyed had expelled a child. 15% of people working in child care had expelled children. And children with 2 or more ACEs, people are probably familiar with the ACEs study. If you have 2 or more ACEs, you're more likely to be suspended or expelled than a child with no ACEs. So we have children with, I like to call it behaviors that challenge adults in child care programs, and they all need some support, and so do the child care workers. We know that they're underpaid, they're overworked, and it goes on and on. And I know there's been lots of work going on in where am I? Sitka that is trying to work on that. So this one was done in Alaska. Children, this is one of the first ACEs studies in 2012, and 15.5% of children aged 0 to 5 scored 2 or more ACEs. So we can see that there is a need for supports in the child care centers. I was looking at the 0 to 3 website this morning. That's a national website out there, and they're saying that 10 to 15% of preschool children have some type of mental health issue. And if they live in poverty, that rate goes up to about 22% of 0 to 5 population have mental health issues. And if we don't catch it early and work on it early, then we have a lot of teenagers and adults with mental health issues. So this project, we just had our first strategic meeting this past Tuesday. And we have some components laid out for it. We're going to offer training or stipends for people. We're hoping to get a cohort of at least 6 more people who want to become consultants in Alaska. If we get more, that's going to be great, but at least 6. And there are some competencies. What does it take to be a mental health consultant? These have been developed out of Georgetown University. They hold the only certificate program to become an infant mental health consultant. So it's kind of an up and coming field. But we're going to use those as our baseline. This is what you need to do to become a consultant. We're going to give them stipends for training. We're offering mentoring for them, reflective supervision, and we have a statewide advisory committee to guide this work. Some very dedicated, no offense, Chris, women who have been doing this for a long, he's special. He'll tell you how I dragged him in. But okay, so if we can do this work, we hope to have some good child outcomes, decrease problem behaviors, of course. We hope to have more skills with staff guidance, hopefully some program capacity, and of course some good outcomes for families. That's what we really want. So we hope this time next year when you guys come back, we'll be able to give an updated report and tell you everything we've been doing. And if anybody wants more information, that's where you can find us.
Thank you so much, Gail. Dr. Lauren Wild. Dr. Lauren Wild.
Dr. Fish.
That's okay.
Fish
Ocean whales. Hi, everybody. I feel out of place here. My name is Lauren Wild, and as I said earlier, I work for the University of Alaska Southeast. If I hit advance, it should go, right? Okay. So I'm here representing the Early Childhood Coalition of Sitka, many members of whom are in this room today. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we've been up to and where we're kind of headed, hopefully. I don't think I need to go over the definitions, but here in Sitka, for those of you that are not from Sitka or don't know, we have licensed care coverage for 8 to 10 infants in Sitka right now. There's only one facility that takes infants that's licensed, 2 facilities for toddlers that hold about 17, and those numbers are kind of fluctuating, but they're about right now. And then 5 preschool age, 3 to 5 facilities in Sitka. And then just at the bottom, I wanted to note there are a few in-home licensed care facilities in Sitka. We just haven't been able to connect with them to get numbers and everything. But I don't want to discount that there are a few in-home licensed facilities as well. So on the right, you're just seeing really low coverage. I think the state average the last time I looked in Alaska was about 24% from birth to 5. So birth to 4 actually was that stat. So we're pretty low, especially with infants and toddlers. So we see that as being one of the main areas in Sitka where there's just no availability of care. There's only one spot for infants. Search used to have a daycare facility in Sitka, and they don't anymore. So we're down to 1. And SJ used to take some infants, but yeah. So that's kind of the scene of where we're at, which I call a crisis. So that's the problem. There's no availability or accessibility, and it's high cost. It's more than the feds say you shouldn't spend more than 7% of your income, your annual income, on childcare, and it's much higher than that here. So things that we've talked about and sort of condensed our thoughts into as a coalition are the fact that there's a lack of real workforce in Sitka, and I think we're feeling that nationwide. We're hearing about that nationwide. It's a low wage industry without benefits, and so we have this lack of workforce, and it's also not really a lot of students that are young that are looking at careers are not hearing about this as a career when they're in school. And then for running a business, there's just a really high cost to doing business, and that's part of why we end up with low wages, but it doesn't pencil out. And Annette has actually penciled out some of those costs of what it would cost to run a facility in Sitka, paying rent and mortgage, and paying your employees a living wage, and it just doesn't pencil out. You'd have to charge parents more than they could ever pay. Yeah, I think we all are kind of aware in this group of what those problems are, and that's statewide. You are seeing kids entering kindergarten that are behind. SSD stands for Sitka School District, for those of you not from Sitka. So kids are entering the system, and our district employees are aware of that. They're just more and more entering the system, needing more help, and so that's costly to the district to provide one-on-one care. And so, so you all know all of these things. But what it comes down to at the bottom there is just that we feel strongly that the care and education of children birth to 5 should be consistent with the care and education we have in this country or better than, I guess, maybe, the education system we have in this country for people 5 to 18. So we identified kind of these big puzzle pieces in town of needing workforce and having a dependable revenue stream to support that workforce, and then having some infrastructure support to be able to provide new facilities or have new centers to open. And then there's also this big employer business contribution piece too that we haven't even really gotten to yet as a group, but that also needs to be addressed and brought to the table. So the few things that we've been working on that I'll just go over really quick are a Career Pathways Workforce Development program with some trainings and some advocacy we've been doing. So I'll just really quickly, last September, so just about almost exactly a year ago, we held a summit in Sitka where we had lots of folks come in and just talk about this possibility of training a workforce in Sitka. And we focused it, just because we had to sort of narrow things down, we focused it just on bringing classes to the high schools in Sitka. We have 3 high schools here. And so we thought, well, what if we could teach some early childhood education classes for dual enrollment within the school system? University of Alaska Southeast does not have an early childhood education program currently, so we're working with the University of Alaska Anchorage. So we had their Dean of Education come down and talk about their program, and we kind of pitched it to the room of all these folks from the community. What do you guys think? Would it work? That kind of thing. And it was a really successful summit, I think, because it's happening. So we have all 3 high schools are running early childhood education programs in Sitka. The classes started about a week or 2 ago when school started. We have 2 adjunct teachers locally that are teaching those classes in person. That was a big thing for the high school administrators. They were just like, these kids don't want to take online classes, so if you can have a body in front of them teaching our curriculum. And so, yeah, so we've got, it was going to be 10 in each high school, in Sitka High and Pacific, 10 in Sitka High, 5 in Pacific High, and 10 at Mount Edgecombe High School. But I just found out yesterday there's actually 16 at Sitka High School that are taking the class, 14 at Mount Edgecombe High School, and 5 at Pacific High School. So it's like, yeah, and Sitka Tribe of Alaska bought all the textbooks and workbooks for all the students in the community. So they've, as an aside, like single-handedly pulled childcare through the COVID crisis. And yeah, so we owe so much to the support of the Sitka Tribe of Alaska folks, particularly in Sitka. I want to give a shout out to Kathleen Adams, who facilitated all that to happen for our program. So hopefully the goal is they'll have a class in the fall, another class in the spring. It's like a 105 and a 107. And then all these classes can lead towards an occupational endorsement. Right now, their endorsement program takes too long for high school kids to really get. It's an 18-credit program. So we're trying to work with Tanya, the dean of the School of Ed, to bring that down to a smaller kind of endorsement that you could get, kind of like the CNA program, which is about 13 credits. So yeah, so it's happening. Now we need to find a way to fund it long term. The University of Alaska Anchorage is funding it, paying our adjuncts for us, but we'll need to sort of figure out as a community how we're going to fund those positions in the future to teach the classes. The tribe is running home care training, so training there, they're approaching this as like, there's so many families that are caring for kids. Can we train those people, not that are providing like an in-home facility, but that are caring for family members or friends' family members. So they're working on that. I don't have a ton of information about it, but the tribe is can answer questions about that. And then we've been, we've kind of been partnering with different groups in town to try to get the ball rolling on various advocacy things. And so we presented to the Health Needs and Human Services Commission, and we're hoping to kind of work with them. And they've listed childcare as one of their goals this year. So trying to kind of pool our resources and come up with good ways to present these things to the city. The Sitka Chamber of Commerce, the director Rachel Roy has been able to push childcare as a goal through the chamber this year. So they're running a fall speaker series, and we're helping them kind of come up with speakers that will come. It's a 6-week series, and it's like a lunchtime thing where they come every Wednesday, and It'll be, last year they did housing, this year they're doing childcare. Those are the two top every year in town for our businesses that are issues. So yeah, that should be starting, I think in late September, early October is the first one. And then 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting. We met with Senator Dan Sullivan's aide, Chris Brown, who focuses on healthcare, childcare, and Veterans Affairs. And we had a lot of folks show up. It was really nice to see so many participants. And they basically were giving feedback to him about how, at the federal level, we can use some help in this sector. We'll see how that pans out, but yeah, it was really great to bring people from the community together and bring that feedback to the federal level. Our next steps, we're hoping we can put together some sort of town hall in the spring to kind of continue this momentum of community feedback, and that's something that our assembly has identified as like necessary for them to sort of take steps forward at the government level. And then we've been sort of working a lot with Juneau. They have put some ordinances together, and they're using sales tax revenue to fund early childhood education there. And that's a model that we're trying to learn off of and not reinvent the wheel. So kind of how did they do it? And they have some great resources there. And then, yeah, we're also kind of looking towards this infrastructure need to figure out if there can be facilities. There's plenty of buildings in town that are city-owned or owned by big businesses that could perhaps be used to help startups of new facilities that might be able to be provided at low cost or something so that it's more affordable to open a business. I think those are our main ones. That was a lot, but thank you. That's my kiddo. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I know a lot of people in this room, or quite a few people in this room, are a part of that work. So thank you for all the important work that you are doing now and will continue on. And we're here to support you. I'm going to jump through these unless you have something else to share.
Yeah, no, those are
just in case. We should care greatly. And you
convince people that don't.
Yeah, you did a really great job with that. And now I'm happy to introduce Chris Pashko.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about our fairly new therapeutic preschool that we opened up through Sitka Counseling. Intended to launch it in January, got it launched in April, but yeah, it's kind of a growing, evolving thing, but I think we're off to a pretty good start. Let's see. Well, I guess, I can't go back, huh? No, it doesn't go back.
If you use the mouse.
Sorry. Oh, there we go.
Oh, shoot, because it's recording.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess what I was going to say, a little bit of background. Yeah, I would think about 5-6 years ago, Sitka Counseling, with some support and encouragement from Gail and our previous clinical director, Marita, really wanted to help kind of cover with mental health services that early childhood population, infant and early childhood. But we more often get kids closer to the age of 3 and up rather than see too many infants so far. But we were finding ourselves spending more time in the preschools and the child care centers, supporting our clients, getting more referrals from those places, and sending staff in to help, like with some more one-on-one support while they had some functional impairments in those settings and some challenges. And so we just started looking at, well, what if there was a program that was just a little more focused, really small ratios with the staff and the students, and clinical intervention and access, and just a really trauma-informed, relationship-based kind of program. So we got funding through THREAD, their community innovation grants, to pilot one for 2 years, and so that's where we're at. We were technically into the second year now. And I can't go back, so sorry for that. I'm trying to remember. Annette, what was on that first slide? Okay. Yeah, and I think it was, how did it come about? So basically what we did, we started asking then the different providers in town, the different centers, how often then do you feel that you are, at risk of suspending or expelling a kid? How often do you feel you would make referrals if there were such a program available in town? And that was a pretty favorable response, from every center that responded. So then we used an AmeriCorps the next year and had her really drive a feasibility study of what would it cost, what would it take, how do you build those services, which other ones are out there in the state, and there's not very many of them. But we did a lot of learning from Alaska Behavioral Health in Anchorage, a Little Tykes program, and then also Denali Family Services, who is kind of wanting to refresh their, I forget the name, Denali Explorers program at the same time that we were. So in doing that, I think we would be onto this slide. We wanted to focus it the way that we kind of wrote it and have been designing it and still adopting, I think. Trauma-informed care, that relationship-based model. We're kind of using trust-based, TBRI, trust-based relational interventions, as a kind of a core evidence-based program. We wanted to incorporate elements of ecotherapy in forest school just because of our natural surroundings and wanting to put a little more leverage that, I guess, in wellness, so with kids too. The pyramid model, Gail has been helping train and going to start some consultation now that we have more kids and more staff here in the next week or so. And that's been interesting too, because we are trying to find, this is kind of this new idea. How do you follow objectives and goals that you want to put into a preschool to help kids get kindergarten ready and do their social development, but doing it in a clinical setting, right? With does this app that we want to share stuff with the parents, is it HIPAA compliant? Or let's get photos, but they cannot show any children, like identifiable, just things like that. We're going to put up an awesome new playground, and we should put up a 6-foot privacy fence, because a lot of people gawking through there. Oh, Alaskan children playing, can I take a picture? No, you may not take a picture. You're on a counseling agency right now. So some of those things have kind of come up. Preschool enrollment is coupled with, I can be looking at this one right here. So to participate in the program, they're also getting individual therapy. Family therapy is offered and usually indicated. The younger the kid, 3 to 5, still one of the only evidence-based therapies is like child-parent psychotherapies. It's really focusing on the attachment relationship and having that dyadic work built into it. And then what we hope to kind of go into is, adding some afternoons. One of the big challenges that it just doesn't cover the childcare hour needs, and that's one thing. It's not a childcare center. It's a clinical service, and it's classified as an intensive outpatient service. So there's sometimes a lot of cancellations or no-shows or that sort of thing. It's like, okay, you're scheduled for intense, like you don't show up 45 minutes later, the group's already, we're trying to do routine and structure, and what are the expectations? So kind of helping develop that culture and explain that too with the families. So clinicians are writing the treatment plans and writing all the interventions for the preschool into the treatment plans to support the staff that are then doing that. And we can look at these as all paraclinical services, augmenting the therapy, and trying to shape it in a very team approach. The parents, the staff that are there, the clinicians there, and we're really looking at what are we all seeing, how we need to make adjustments and that sort of thing. We are a maximum 3 kids to 1 adult, 1 teacher, and no more than 6 kids in a classroom, and we're right about to expand and be able to open a second one. We're at 5 kids right now. We also have the capacity. There's some kids that 3 to 1 ratio is not enough. They need one-on-one. So we have, as soon as we get the staff, that's been the biggest challenge, like having a one-on-one person to help the kid get through the school day. Yeah. Here's a few photos of the little room. We are over in the Sheldon Jackson, the old family housing complex. So all of these are retrofitted apartments, trying to turn into service spaces, so they make it pretty interesting. But we did a pretty good job trying to spruce the place up. And you can see there's a lot of daily nature walks as part of it, going in the woods, watching the fish, collecting things, bringing them back, examining them, turning them into nature-based art projects, that sort of thing. A lot of mindfulness activities in the woods. This is right outside the back of our building. This is a fort the kids have been working on. They're really excited. They collect their sticks and they go hang out in the fort. And this is a movement room. So there's a crash pad of foam back there and a jumping thing and stuff. And we just added a gate so that they don't have unfettered access to the movement room. And now that there's 4 to 5 kids in there at a time, and that was realizing like, oh, this space feels a lot different when the numbers have doubled. So, yeah, so how do kids get into this and kind of how is it different than a typical child care program? They need to be referred, but they can be referred by a parent. A physician, another child care center. We've gotten them from OCS. We've gotten them from Head Start, mental health consultants. Thanks, Gail. And yeah, once they're in, like that was part of the interesting thing with the pyramid. It's like, okay, this is the way you're supposed to start the relationship and go over these sorts of rights. And okay, but we already have a standard intake process. How do we adjust that? Because it also needs to meet the needs before the assessment, all this sort of thing. So we're working that stuff out, but they go through the intake and assessment, and essentially to qualify for an intensive outpatient program, they have to show significant functional impairment in the mainstream sort of environment. They need something additional, and that gives us the medical necessity. And if they don't quite meet that threshold, then, you know, when we have enough staff, we can send a staff member maybe to help them during the challenging parts of the day while they're over at Mount Edgecombe Preschool or somewhere else. So again, that when there's enough staff and we get the program built, we want to be able to do more consultation and support outside of our preschool as well. Preschool sessions, yeah, they're billed as intensive outpatient. We plan to do a little bit more individual work outside of just the therapy too, as we have more capacity. And then we expect the parents and caregivers to be involved, not just see a next treatment review in 90 days. No, we need to do some work also, and how can we support you in case management and getting the kids in extracurriculars and that sort of thing too. So, yeah, the challenging parts have been kind of navigating how do we cover the pyramid, the preschool kind of expectations and culture, but also meeting the clinical needs of this being clinical services. We've really struggled to get enough staff to launch when we wanted to launch, but now we have 3 new people coming and on Monday, so we're excited to go up and add those afternoon hours and that sort of a thing. So I think it's coming along and the word's getting out around town. Yeah, we are trying to help them, the families understand like this is a service, so please show up or let us know in advance if you need to cancel. Basically, it's not, yeah. Other than that, yeah, they're not covering childcare needs, and so when we add some afternoons, it still won't be 5 days a week, but it'll give people more time and availability to go, hold on a job. So successes, we're getting more referrals from more sources in town, which is great. We were able to see progress pretty quickly. We had our first graduate who just basically did an intensive summer program where parents were feeling like I don't think I want to register him in kindergarten. And cognitively, it's like he will be bored if you do not enroll him in kindergarten. You wait another whole year. But these behaviors are the challenge and the worry. So we had him in the program for June and July, and he started kindergarten and has had no problems these first 2 weeks, and we just dropped him down to general mental health, which is a lower intensity outpatient kind of support. So we think it's working. It's just a very limited sample size so far, but we'll keep you all posted. And basically, yeah, it's really nice to be able to individualize the interventions and the plans and get the feedback from the staff and the teachers of like, we're actually noticing this. How do we address that? And we make a plan together, and we update the treatment plan and that sort of thing. So I think that's all that I got. Oh, next. Yep, we're doing some more renovations. Also, the thread built into the grant to add the second classroom, the new play structure, and outdoor playroom. That's the next thing. We use a lot of child-centered play therapy, and so we plan to have basically a gazebo out back by the woods that there will be shuttered, that you can open it up when the weather is nice and close it when it's rainy, put some lights in there, but there'll be a play kitchen. but mud kitchen, you know, and there will be a place to pick things apart and a sand tray and stuff like that in there. So we are looking forward to what's next, and then continued referrals. We should be ready to take more. So if anybody knows of anybody, pass the words, and we can get brochures and referral forms. So all the preschools in town and stuff have the referral forms. But yeah, if there's another place, we should be sending those and having them handy. We should reach out to pediatric clinics probably and give you guys, yeah. So anyone else, like, let us know, and we'll be happy to get you connected. Thank you.
Before I welcome Dr. McNichol up, I just want to give a special shout out to both the state of Alaska and Thread, who managed the program preschool development grant, the PDG grant, which helped with the innovation funds, because that's an incredible innovative practice to get childcare and extreme needs met for children and families. And I know yesterday we had the wonderful opportunity to meet with Annette and get a tour at the preschool, and just hearing all the incredible one-on-one work and impact, that story of the student who, I don't know if we can start, and what a wonderful success for not only the child but for the family as well. So great work, and thank you. So I'd love to welcome Dr. Jennifer McNichol from Outcome Center with Search. Thank you.
So I apologize, I have no slides. Just stare at my boring name up there. I wish I'd at least given you one photo or something of some lovely scenery or cute kid or something, but anyway, not the case. I just actually want to go off script, not that I have a script, but I'm so impressed with everything I've heard so far. I mean, but I feel terrible that at least I must have my head in the sand or something, because I've learned so much from these people that I, live amongst and I've been here for 28 years. I mean, I remember when we didn't have cell phones and didn't have internet, so I shouldn't be so dysfunctional right now, but I am. Maybe it is just me, but I feel like we are still a pretty siloed community, even though we're a small town. At least maybe our entity Search is a little too siloed for sure. So yes, please send us whatever forms we need to refer kids. I think that's really important. I'm so excited about this program. I had no idea it existed. In my head, I'm still listening to families, these are the preschools that are available, and yeah, this is such an exciting option, so yay. Anyway, so I'm kind of trying to represent what we have in Sitka, not Search-wide, and a lot of you sitting here already know because you are my coworkers. But anyway, we have 2 pediatricians in our primary care doing, outpatient primary care work. We are both part-time in clinic, so we don't have massive capacity, but it is a small town, so that doesn't necessarily mean there's not enough services provided. It's important to realize that a lot of our family practice doctors are seeing, babies and children for primary care. What's really nice is that a lot of them are able to deliver these babies and then they follow them, and it's kind of a lovely, they could follow them indefinitely in theory. Dr. Vastola and I tend to see kids that, for whatever reason, kind of came into our panel at some point, or they were referred to us because maybe a one-off consultation, or maybe because they're very medically complex, and so they're just better served by the time that we can devote to them. But our family practice colleagues have no hesitation about reaching out to us with concerns and questions and requests for more in-depth evaluation. So that's just important to realize. Newborn care is typically provided actually by the family practice doctors because they are at the deliveries. We are not routinely at deliveries unless we're asked to be there for some specific reasons. Otherwise, the examples of some of the reasons that we get consulted are, again, medical complexity when there's one big problem, or lots and lots of smaller problems that add up to significant challenges for families. And also, we get more and more behavioral referrals. So that's where this information that you all are sharing is so helpful and important. We are now much more routinely seeing ADHD evaluations than we ever did when I trained in residency, which I feel like wasn't that long ago, but I got very little behavioral health training, and we're now kind of learning these skills. And it's essential because, you know, there are not a lot of specialists in pediatric behavioral health, especially on the medical side of things, child psychiatry and so forth. So that's something we're spending a lot of time doing and learning a lot about. Just to make everyone aware of what are the other, you know, care options provided through Search for kids. Our dental clinic sees all ages, so they see infants, they see young children. Our private dentists in town are great, but some of them are less comfortable with young children. You know, I, as a pediatrician, want 6-month-old babies going to the dentist's office. They're not going to get scraped and cleaned, even if they have a few teeth. It's more a matter of building comfort and familiarity and maybe slapping a little fluoride varnish on there, because that is the standard of care that we're not always meeting when kids are not seen until they're 5. Other service, you know, departments at Search that do see children with various levels of expertise, but they're always willing to refer on and consult with others. Optometry, audiology, ENT, the wonderful therapists that we have several of in the room, SLP, speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy. The orthopedic clinic will see kids for traumatic injuries. They're less comfortable with more chronic things or things like scoliosis. We tend to refer kids out for that sort of thing. Weight management is a really important thing and a huge pediatric problem, as many of us know. Our weight management clinic is definitely more adult-oriented, but they are seeing kids, especially adolescents. I've referred adolescents to them. They see them. They evaluate them. And then I just learned when I was kind of gathering some information for this presentation that they are actually starting to do initial workup and referral for surgical management of obesity. They have an arrangement with a Stanford surgeon who provides that service. And that may sound like, oh, that's a little much, but that actually is more and more the recommended standard of care for, you know, there are severely obese adolescents that are set up for lifelong chronic health problems, and we don't have to wait until they're 25 to start talking about more aggressive interventions that can really, you know, turn their health and their life around. So that was interesting to learn. Along those lines, we do have our nutrition department, and they meet with families, they meet with adolescents, they'll meet one-on-one or with parents present if that's, you know, there's a lot of ways to do that. Our behavioral health clinic, I think we all know that does not have robust services for children. They do have some therapists that meet with families and meet with children. It's not all that I would like it to be, and probably most of us. We also have child psychiatrists on staff. None of them reside in Sitka, so they do a lot of telemedicine, but they are helpful, and we do reach out to them frequently. So those are some of the on-staff services. As far as visiting services that we have arrangements and contracts with, coming down from Anchorage, we have a pediatric endocrinologist who comes typically twice a year. And is also available, you know, to us to reach out to with questions anytime. And then there's also hepatology, liver specialty. They see a few kids, not as many, but sometimes that's needed. From Seattle Children's Hospital, we have pediatric neurology and cardiology, and they come a couple times a year as well. And they're, you know, again, very accessible and helpful to all of us. We are close, I hear, to inking a deal with a developmental pediatric, neurodevelopmental pediatric specialist from Anchorage. So he and I keep talking, and he's like, I hear they're still working on the contract. You know, he's ready and willing to come. And I'm excited about the idea that will be happening, but it isn't, you know, it's not ready for prime time yet, but we're working on that. That's just one person. It's a pediatrician who is a developmental pediatrician. The big gap that I still feel exists in Sitka, and I don't know if any of you all have any other insights, we don't have access to neuropsychological testing for kids.
Yes, we have to ship them places.
Yeah, so they have to go somewhere and someone has to pay for it. And it's really frustrating. The school district does a bit, if they clearly can identify an educational reason to do the testing, they'll do some testing, but otherwise there's so many kids that could really benefit from that, and it's not something we have. So that's a gap in care that I would highlight. Another area, just kind of hearkening back to the behavioral health, I'm lobbying hard for our behavioral health service to develop some parent behavior training programs. Our providers some of the child psychiatrists are giving us educational talks about ADHD and ADHD management as we're all seeing more of it. Clearly, we don't want to be putting, kids on stimulants, especially under age 5 or age 6. That is not the standard of care. That standard of care is parent behavioral, intervention training, and we don't have it. So, we see kids that we're like, yeah, you're a 3-year-old, probably you do have ADHD. We don't have a lot to offer you, that's formalized, standardized intervention. So I don't know if you all, that'd be maybe some area that collaboration could foster things better. Yeah.
There are some parenting programs available, like Circular Security, ALP provides it, and Sitka Counseling, and you guys have a couple others.
Yeah, I just noticed like a little bit. We tried doing the CPR too. We have to get someone recertified because the staffing changed. But yeah, that and ASD to be able to treat. There's no ABA certified.
Yes.
That's the big challenge. So.
And there's so many other, parent intervention focused that are short of ABA, which is really hard to justify in a small town. But
Encounter, there's the Fast B programs for Seattle Children's that I can, if you haven't seen those, they're specifically meant for like in a medical clinical encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a program. There's some on behavior. There's a couple different sets of them, but Fast B is a good one.
Yeah.
Fast B. But they were from the child psychiatrists through the PAL program at Seattle Children's.
Mm-hmm.
One that's at least they're short. They're meant to be short parent-led interventions, but that's one that has had some positive reception from providers in Alaska.
Yeah, please, that'd be great to share that. So that's just kind of a little summary of, what is available and where the gaps are, but questions? Anyone? Okay. Again, apologies for no slides. But y'all can spell my name now.
Thank you so much, Dr. McNichol, and I just appreciate the conversation in the room and the enlightenment of I've learned so much, because that's the point of our partnership meetings, is to have everybody in the community. And when you can't call somebody, or whether you haven't been able to have a meeting in the last couple months together, this is a great space for that. So we recognize the different silos in communities from different services, because we all have to be successful in the work that we do, and sometimes we just forget to call our partners and see what's going on. So I'm grateful that the meaning of a partnership meeting, the mission of a partnership meeting was established today, and we were able to meet. So thank you all. Moving on, we would love to share a little bit about some of our upcoming activities happening with the Alaska Pediatric Partnership. We do have, this is our next month's partnership meeting. We will be in Anchorage for our next partnership meeting. As we shared, we do this the first Friday of every month, September through May. And so if you'd like to hear more about what's happening across the state, other opportunities for partnership, I do believe Alaska Behavioral Health will be presenting at this one, which would be great to hear kind of what they're doing and any new abilities for referrals or just partnership in there. which is great. And so we do have all of the Zoom links available on our website. You can either scan the QR code, but not today, maybe on the recording, or check out our A2P2 website to register for those meetings coming up. And again, just a wonderful place to network with partners across the state. And then we also, as I gave you a little spoiler alert, we have our pediatric symposium coming up in Anchorage, and I think Carmen is going to speak a little bit about that. It is for the recording, so I appreciate you.
We do have so every year A2P2 puts on a pediatric symposium in Anchorage. It's a conference that offers CMEs if that's something you need, but it's clinically focused, but we do try to balance the clinical and public health talks. And actually, Dr. McNichols touched on one of our second day keynote is going to feature a panel on the kind of future of pediatrics and like the different models of pediatrics around like the way you did a really good job describing the kind of use of pediatricians in more of a subspecialty model that is becoming much more common, and that's used in a lot of regions of Alaska, even though it may not be how some of us received pediatric care when we were younger. It is more common, and so a discussion around how pediatric care is shifting, especially in our state. But we'll have a lot of great talks, and some of the mental health is going to be prominently focused in a lot of talks there as well. So this 8th and 9th will be that, and it also takes the place of our November partnership meeting. So November will be the only month we don't have a meeting on the first Friday. It'll be on the second Friday of November. But if you would like to register for that, or if you have more information about the agenda, talk to Donna right now.
The next slide is the agenda.
Look at the slide right now.
You have to go. You guys are the first ones to see the agenda.
I was going to say, it is going to be on our website in the next couple of days, but you can walk closer to the slide in a minute because it's really tiny. Or we're in the process of publishing the agenda, and registration is open for the symposium right now.
Okay, and this is wonderful because we have a few more minutes to share about Help Me Grow Alaska. I know we were able to talk to a few of you yesterday in your offices about Help Me Grow. You all have a folder on your table, but Help Me Grow Alaska is a resource and referral access line for providers like yourself to use, for families, anybody who's needing extra resources or referrals or connection to a specialized clinic. We have family support specialists, like Robin McComas from our team, who connect with families and hear what they're going through. What are your needs? What type of insurance do you have? What kind of anything that's going on right now. Wonderful listeners, very caring people, and then we have a big database system, and we put that information in and are able to collect the types of resources that the families need. We're able to call providers and ask about the insurance that they take, a wait list that might be happening for the families, and then we provide those resources to the families so that either one, we can help them get connected, or they can call and get connected as well. And then we also follow back up with them in a couple weeks to be like, hey, how are things going? Were you able to get connected to a provider? Some might say, yes, but thank you so much for calling back. I'm glad to hear that someone was still thinking about me. Or, oh my gosh, I completely forgot. I can't believe I didn't do that. Or that was a terrible experience. Can you give me something new? We hope that the latter doesn't happen, but we are here if it does. So as you are all in your clinics and with your patients and the people, even yourself as a parent or a caregiver or a friend, we're here to offer any types of resources that people might need. So you all have folders sitting at your place. You can take the folders. We have lots of materials in the back, different pamphlets and brochures and trifolds that you can also order for free on our website to have in your clinics as well. So these wonderful books on our tables, the Baby's Busy Day, Where's Bear, and Amazing Me, are books that are adapted on the milestones for 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, and 3 to 5-year-olds. And so if you may know, they were actually recently updated. And so we're going through a little bit of an adaptation to make changes. But these books specifically are all about Alaska. So the activities are focused on Alaska seasons, because I grew up in the Midwest where in March there are green pastures with cows. Not here in Alaska. And so to make it more Alaska centralized and what we're going through, we have some incredible artists all across the state who actually work in early childhood and put their focus on early childhood that are the illustrators. They live here in state and are very passionate about their work and very cute drawings. Like if I could put one on a t-shirt, I would, because they're so adorable. So all of them are free. You can order them on our website. And as I mentioned earlier, although the QR codes are not working right now, Donna is taking orders. So if you would like to order 100 Baby Busy Days, it might be a little bit, but you can absolutely put that order in with Donna and we will connect with you. And if it's not today, you can always use our website or contact us. And oh yes, thank you. And the flyers that Donna just handed out as service providers, keep those in your office and be like, oh shoot, we're running low on books. Let me scan the QR code and I can order a new set. So that's not something you want to hand out to families because they don't need to order 100 Baby Busy Days. But you can order those. You can also request a training on Help Me Grow. If you are a prescribing provider, we also have the PAL Pack service that we can talk more about as well. I know Dr. McNichol talked a little bit about the neuropsych evaluations and the long wait list for that. That is something in Help Me Grow that we are seeing a lot more of in our requests for services. And so as you all have echoed that, that is definitely a huge need in our state. And in the interim, we want to provide parents and families ways to support themselves. And so Help Me Grow can really offer some of those supports in the waiting period. And as a prescribing provider, if you need additional support, if you are that person, you can also access the PALPAC line. And if you don't know what that is, we can give you a training for that because it's very well needed and used in our state. And so it's been wonderful. So I believe that, thank you. Thank you all for being here today to present, to hear, to have conversation, and to float around with us as we navigate the fun things that have happened in Sitka lately. Not only for the fun work that you do, but for being flexible along with, the internet outage. Because if somebody watches this in 3 weeks when we're back up, they're going to be like, why didn't they record this live? And this is why. So thank you all again for being here. Is there any conversation or questions that anybody has? Yes, please. Thank you.
I work with a lot of teenagers.
Yeah.
And are there also resources on here that for teens?
Absolutely. Thank you. I should have said this before. Help Me Grow Alaska serves families prenatally through age 26. Which, if you can't see this, but there's a lot of big eyes in the room, so this is great because insurance, a lot of children, not 26-year-olds really aren't children, but people stay on their parents' insurance through 26 or through 25 until they're 26, and then also with brain development, we're seeing through age 26 just the continuation of learning and growing, and so we do have a lot of different teen needs that we're able to offer support to as well. Yeah, thank you for asking. Any other questions? Well, if you haven't met each other here across the room, please feel free in the next couple minutes to introduce yourselves and get connected to one another, trade cards, and thank you again for being here.